Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take you on a journey tonight, not to a mountain peak, not to a beach paradise, not even to some place you've dreamed of visiting, but to a place inside yourself that most people spend their lives avoiding. A place we label with fear, hide under layers of excuses, and pretend doesn't exist. That place is failure. The truth is, you've been told your whole life that failure is bad, that it's the thing to be avoided at all costs. In school, you're told that an F is the end. At work, you're told that mistakes cost you promotions. In relationships, you're told that heartbreak means something is wrong with you. Society has trained us to treat failure like a contagious disease. But here's the irony. Every single great achievement you've ever admired, every innovation, every masterpiece, every world record, every revolution in history, was built on a foundation of failure. Think about it. Thomas Edison didn't just wake up one morning, stroll into his lab, and say, "Light bulb, please." No, he failed more than 1,000 times before he saw that little filament glow. Michael Jordan, often called the greatest basketball player of all time, missed over 9,000 shots in his career. Steve Jobs was fired from the very company he created. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter manuscript was rejected 12 times before one publisher took a chance. These people weren't lucky. They weren't magically gifted. They simply understood a secret most of the world has forgotten. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is the path to it. But here's the tragedy. Somewhere along the way, in our schools, our offices, our homes, our culture, we lost the art of embracing failure. We forgot how to lean into it, to study it, to love it for the growth it brings. Instead, we've made failure a shameful thing, a dark secret to bury. And in doing so, we've weakened ourselves. We've made our dreams smaller. We've created a generation terrified of trying because they might not succeed the first time. Tonight, I want to give that art back to you. I want you to walk away from here not just unafraid of failure, but hungry for it. I want you to see failure as a tool, a teacher, and a trusted friend. Because when you do, your life will transform in ways you can't even imagine right now. You see, embracing failure isn't about loving the pain. It's about loving the person you become through it. It's about unlocking a mindset so unshakable, so deeply rooted in resilience, that the world can throw its storms at you, and you'll still stand. So tonight, I'm going to share with you 7 powerful keys to rediscovering this lost art. 7 truths that will change the way you see yourself, your challenges, and your future forever. Let's begin. The first step in embracing failure is to redefine it. Because if you're looking at failure through the wrong lens, no matter what strategies I give you tonight, you'll resist it. Right now, most people define failure as the opposite of success. They think, if I fail, that means I didn't win. That means I'm not good enough. But let's challenge that. What if failure isn't the opposite of success, but the building blocks of it? What if every failure is simply a stepping stone, a data point, a lesson that gets you closer to where you want to be? Imagine a child learning to walk. They wobble, they fall, they bump their head, they cry, they get back up, and they do this hundreds of times before they take their first confident steps. Now, no parent watches their child fall and says, "Well, that's it. You're just not meant to walk." That would be ridiculous. We understand instinctively that falling is part of learning to walk. But the moment we grow up, we forget this truth. We expect ourselves to run marathons in life without falling even once. Let me tell you this, your failures do not define you. Your response to them does. Failure is an event, not an identity. It is something that happens to you, not something you are. When Thomas Edison was asked by a reporter how it felt to fail 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb, he famously replied, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." That's the mindset I want you to take into your own life. When something doesn't work out, it's not proof that you're not enough, it's proof that you're in the process. Here's a personal story. Early in my career, I had an idea for a business that I was sure would succeed. I poured my savings into it, worked day and night, and in less than a year, it crashed. I was left with debt, disappointment, and doubt. For months, I called myself a failure. But when I finally shifted my definition, when I saw that experience not as the end, but as training ground, I realized something powerful. That failure gave me the exact skills, relationships, and resilience I needed for my next venture, which became a huge success. Without that failure, the success never would have happened. So, I challenge you, from this day forward, stop using failure as a verdict. Use it as feedback. Stop letting it close your story. Let it become the chapter that makes the victory so much sweeter. There's a truth I want you to take to heart tonight, and if you truly absorb it, it will change everything about the way you live. That truth is this: failure is not a signal to stop, it's an invitation to grow. You see, most people encounter failure and interpret it as a warning: stop. Don't go any further. This isn't for you. But high achievers, the people who change industries, touch millions of lives, and create lasting legacies, see failure differently. To them, failure is simply a checkpoint, a marker that says, here's what you've learned so far. Now keep going. This mindset shift begins with a single decision: to see every failure as neutral until you give it meaning. That's right, failure, by itself, is not positive or negative. It's a blank page. You decide whether it becomes a defeat or a stepping stone. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're climbing a mountain, not a small hill, but a massive, cloud-topped peak. Along the way, you hit a patch of loose rocks, you slip, and you slide back several feet. Now, in that moment, you have two choices. You can decide, that's it. This mountain is too dangerous. I'm going home. Or you can say, all right, I learned where not to step. Let's try another path. Same event. Two completely different mindsets. One leads you back to the comfort zone, the other takes you to the summit. I've seen people with extraordinary potential quit because they treated a single failure as a prophecy. They failed once in business and decided they were not cut out for entrepreneurship. They failed once in love and decided they were unlovable. They failed once in a creative pursuit and decided they just didn't have the talent. That's not failure speaking, that's a limiting belief dressed up as truth. Here's the secret: your brain is always listening to the story you tell yourself. If your internal narrative says, failure means I'm not good enough, your brain will find evidence to confirm that. But if you tell yourself, failure means I'm learning, I'm evolving, I'm on the right path, your brain will look for ways to prove that too. It's called the reticular activating system, the part of your mind that filters the world to match your beliefs. You get to choose which filter you install. The great philosopher Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." That friction, those trials, are exactly what you and I often label as failure. But in truth, they're shaping you, refining you, making you stronger, wiser, and more capable. Think about the people you admire most. Every single one of them has a highlight reel of victories, and a behind-the-scenes library of failures they rarely talk about. The difference is that they didn't stop at the failure. They saw it as a signal to refine their approach, not abandon their goal. So tonight, I invite you to install this new belief. Failure is not the end, it's the upgrade. Every time you fail, you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. And when you live with that mindset, you become unstoppable. Not because you won't stumble, but because stumbling no longer scares you. In fact, you'll see it as proof that you're in motion, that you're in the arena while others are still sitting in the stands watching. If you're going to embrace failure, you can't just accept that it happens. You have to learn how to fall in a way that moves you forward. Because here's the truth: failure by itself doesn't guarantee growth. It's what you do in the moments after you fall that determines whether you end up further along your journey or stuck in the same place. Too many people treat failure like a full stop. They fall, they freeze, and they stay on the ground replaying the moment over and over again. But winners? They fall forward. They let the momentum of the setback propel them into the next attempt. I want you to imagine a runner in a relay race. They're sprinting, giving everything they have, and just before they hand off the baton, they trip. Now, if they fall backward, they lose even more ground. But if they lean forward, even in the fall, the baton might still cross into their teammate's hand and the race continues. That's falling forward. Here's what falling forward looks like in real life. You launch a product and it flops. Instead of shutting down the business, you analyze the customer feedback, make improvements, and relaunch with a stronger version. You ask for a promotion and your boss says no. Instead of shrinking, you ask what skills you need to develop and start working on them immediately. You pour your heart into a relationship and it ends. Instead of closing your heart forever, you take the lessons, heal, and show up even stronger for the next connection. Falling forward is about direction. Even when you're not standing tall, you're still moving toward your goal. Let me share a personal story. Years ago, I was invited to speak at a conference, a big deal for me at the time. I prepared for weeks. But when I got on stage, my slides malfunctioned, my notes slipped out of order, and halfway through, I completely lost my train of thought. It was a disaster. My first instinct was to get off that stage as fast as possible and never speak in public again. But instead, I decided to use that failure as fuel. I signed up for a public speaking course, volunteered to speak at smaller events, and practiced relentlessly. 6 months later, I delivered a keynote speech that received a standing ovation. That would never have happened if I had fallen backward into fear instead of forward into growth. Here's the thing, falling forward requires courage, but it also requires speed. The longer you sit in the sting of failure, the more you feed self-doubt. But when you respond quickly, when you stand back up and take your next step while the lessons are fresh, you transform failure into progress. So the next time life knocks you down, don't waste time asking, "Why me?" Ask instead, "What's next?" Shift your weight forward, take the next step, and trust that the ground you gain in the process will take you further than you can imagine. Because in the game of life, it's not the people who never fall that win, it's the people who master the art of falling in the right direction. When we talk about embracing failure, we often focus on grit, persistence, and getting back up. But there's another side to this that's just as important: vulnerability. Because if you're not willing to be vulnerable, you'll never fully open yourself to the lessons that failure can teach you. Vulnerability means standing in front of the world, or even just in front of yourself, and saying, "I tried, and I didn't get it right." It's admitting that you don't have all the answers, that you're still learning, that you're human. And for many people, that's terrifying. Not because of the failure itself, but because of what they think failure says about them. You see, we live in a culture obsessed with image. Social media tells us to post our highlights, not our hardships. Our resumes list our successes, not the 100 times we got rejected before that one yes. Somewhere along the way, we've mistaken perfection for strength, when in reality, perfection is often just fear in disguise. But here's the paradox: vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is proof of strength. It takes far more courage to stand in your truth, to show your scars, to admit when you've stumbled, than it does to hide behind a mask of constant success. Let me tell you about a man named Richard. Richard was a brilliant entrepreneur, the kind of guy who could see opportunities where others saw problems. But he had one flaw: he refused to let anyone see him fail. Every time a project didn't work out, he buried it. He'd disappear for months, re-emerge with something new, and pretend the old idea never existed. Over time, people started to see him as guarded, even dishonest. They trusted his skills but not his transparency. One day, after yet another business setback, Richard decided to share the truth. He wrote a public post about what went wrong, the decisions he regretted, the lessons he learned, and how he planned to do better. The reaction shocked him. Instead of losing respect, he gained it. Investors appreciated his honesty. Other entrepreneurs reached out to share their own failures. His vulnerability created connection, and connection created new opportunities. That's the beauty of vulnerability. It turns your failures into bridges instead of walls. It invites others into your journey. It gives people permission to fail too, and in doing so, it creates a community where growth is celebrated over perfection. Now, I'm not saying you need to broadcast every mistake you make, but I am saying you need to stop hiding them from yourself and from the people who matter. When you own your failures out loud, you strip them of their power to shame you. And you'll be surprised at how many people will respect you more for it. Think about the people you admire most, your mentors, your heroes, your role models. I guarantee that if you look closely, what makes them inspiring isn't just their victories, but their openness about the battles they fought along the way. So the next time you fall short, I want you to practice courage, not concealment. Share the lesson. Admit the misstep. Be the person who isn't afraid to say, "Yes, I failed, and here's what I learned." Because vulnerability isn't just part of embracing failure. It's the thing that transforms failure from a private wound into a public gift. If there's one thing I've learned in my journey, and in studying the journeys of high achievers across every field, it's this: resilience is not something you're born with, it's something you build. And the bricks you use to build it are repeated encounters with failure. Think of resilience like a muscle. You can't develop it by reading about it, you can't buy it, and you certainly can't wish it into existence. You have to put it under stress. You have to let it be challenged, stretched, and tested over and over until it becomes strong enough to handle anything life throws your way. But here's where most people go wrong. They think the goal is to avoid failure so they don't hurt their resilience. In reality, avoiding failure is like avoiding the gym because you don't want sore muscles. The soreness is what makes you stronger. Let me give you an example. I once met a young woman named Sa who wanted to become a professional photographer. She had talent, no question about it. Her early work was beautiful. But she was terrified of rejection, so she only submitted her photos to small contests and friendly showcases where she knew she'd be praised. And sure enough, she won a lot of those, but she didn't grow. One day, I challenged her to enter a prestigious national competition, the kind where she'd be up against seasoned professionals. She hesitated, but eventually agreed. The result? She didn't win. In fact, she didn't even make the top 50. But here's what happened. The judges gave her feedback that completely changed the way she shot and edited her work. She entered the same competition the next year, and placed in the top 10. That wouldn't have happened without the first failure. Every time you fail and try again, you strengthen your resilience. And over time, something amazing happens. Failure stops scaring you. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because you've proven to yourself, over and over, that you can survive it. Think about professional athletes. They train every single day, knowing they'll miss more shots than they make in practice. Why? Because every miss is conditioning. Every failed attempt builds not just skill, but the mental toughness to keep going when it matters most. The same is true in business, in relationships, in creative work, in health, in every area of life. Resilience doesn't come from winning all the time. It comes from losing, learning, and returning to the fight with more strength than before. Here's a truth that might surprise you. Some of the most successful people you'll ever meet seek out situations where they might fail, simply because they know it will sharpen them. They take on challenges that are slightly out of reach. They say yes to projects that stretch them beyond their comfort zone. And as a result, they get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the goal. Not to avoid failure, but to normalize it. To see it as just another part of the cycle. To train your mind to think, here we go again. This is where I get stronger. So I'll leave you with this. Resilience is not built in the moments when everything is going right. It's forged in the heat of setbacks, in the repetition of risk, and in the courage to keep showing up. If you can commit to facing failure over and over, not once, not twice, but as many times as it takes, you'll become the kind of person who cannot be broken. Failure, in itself, is not the gift. It's what failure teaches you that changes everything. But here's the challenge. Most people never unwrap that gift. They experience the sting of failure, they feel the embarrassment, they replay the moment in their head, but they never take the time to dig for the lesson that could have made the whole experience worth it. It's like being handed a box with a priceless treasure inside, but because the wrapping is ugly and torn, you throw it away without ever opening it. That's what so many of us do with failure. We discard the experience before discovering its value. Here's the truth, every failure contains at least one lesson, and usually several, that you could never have learned from success alone. Success feels good, but it rarely forces you to change your thinking. Failure, on the other hand, has a way of shaking you awake, demanding that you look at yourself, your habits, your strategies, and your mindset in a new light. Let me give you an example. I once started a project that I was absolutely convinced would work. I had done my research, gathered my resources, and had people telling me it was a sure thing. But when I launched, it flopped. Not just a little, it was a complete collapse. At first, I was frustrated and embarrassed. I told myself all the usual things, I'm not cut out for this, maybe I'm not as good as I thought. But after the sting faded, I sat down with a notebook and started asking myself hard questions. What did I miss in my preparation? What assumptions did I make that turned out to be wrong? What feedback did I ignore because I didn't want to hear it? That session changed everything. I realized I had skipped critical testing steps, ignored early warning signs, and relied too heavily on my own opinion instead of listening to the people I was trying to serve. The lessons I extracted didn't just help me avoid those mistakes next time, they directly led to my next big win. The truth is, failure is like an uncut diamond. At first, it just looks like a rough, jagged stone. But if you take the time to study it, to chip away the outer layers, you find the brilliance inside. That brilliance is the knowledge, the insight, the shift in perspective that will serve you for the rest of your life. The key is to be intentional about it. After every failure, take time to reflect, not just once, but over days or weeks. Write down what happened, identify what was in your control, and decide how you'll approach it differently next time. This turns failure into a teacher, and when you treat it like a teacher, you stop fearing it. And here's a secret, sometimes the lesson is about the goal itself. Sometimes failure is showing you that what you were chasing wasn't truly aligned with your values, your strengths, or your purpose. That's not a loss, that's a blessing. Because it frees you to pursue something that is. So from now on, when you fail, don't just walk away with the pain. Walk away with the gold that pain was hiding. That's how you transform failure from a setback into a stepping stone. If you remember only one thing from tonight, remember this. Failure is not just something you recover from, It's something that can position you for your biggest victories. Most people see a setback as a wall. They hit it, they stop, and they turn around. But I want you to see it as a springboard, something that, when used correctly, launches you further than you could have gone without it. History is filled with people who turned what looked like the end into the beginning of their greatest chapter. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job for being unfit for TV. That rejection didn't just push her out, it pushed her toward the very platform that would make her one of the most influential women in the world. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination before creating one of the most beloved creative empires in history. These people didn't just bounce back. They bounced forward. They took the lessons, the grit, the hunger that failure gave them, and used it to step into opportunities they never would have seen otherwise. Turning a setback into a setup requires two things: perspective and positioning. Perspective means looking at the situation not as the end of the road, but as a redirection. It's asking yourself, what might this be preparing me for? Positioning means taking the actions that put you in the right place for the next opportunity. That might mean building new skills, connecting with new people, or simply being ready to say yes when the right door opens. I remember a time in my own life when a business deal I had spent months working on completely fell apart. Not because of anything I did wrong, but because the other party decided to back out. I was devastated. But that failure freed up my time and energy to take on a different project. One I had initially turned down because I was too busy. That project ended up being the most profitable, most impactful work I'd ever done. If the first deal had succeeded, I never would have even considered it. That's the beauty of setbacks. Sometimes they're just setups in disguise. But you only see that when you stay open, stay hungry, and refuse to let failure make you bitter. So the next time you face a setback, I want you to picture it like a bow pulling back an arrow. The tension, the pull, the delay, it all feels like you're moving in the wrong direction. But in reality, you're storing energy. And when that arrow is released, it flies farther and faster than it ever could without that backward pull. Your setbacks are not there to destroy you, they're there to prepare you, to strengthen you, and to position you for the moment when everything aligns. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we've taken a journey together, not through a fairy tale of endless victories, but through the real, raw, beautiful truth of what it means to live fully. We've redefined failure, shifted our mindset, learned to fall forward, embraced vulnerability, built resilience through repetition, extracted the hidden lessons, and turned setbacks into setups. And in doing so, we've rediscovered something the world has forgotten: that failure is not the end of the road, it's the fuel that drives us to greatness. But here's the thing, none of this matters if it just stays here in this room as words you nodded along to. The power is in what you do when you walk out of here and face your next challenge, your next risk, your next moment where the outcome isn't guaranteed. When that moment comes, and it will, you have two choices. You can shrink, play it safe, and protect yourself from the sting of failure, or you can lean in, take the shot, and trust that even if you miss, you'll come back stronger. I want you to remember this: the people you admire most are not the ones who never failed. They are the ones who failed and failed often, but refused to let failure have the last word. You will fail. You will stumble. You will have moments where you question whether you're good enough, strong enough, or smart enough to keep going. But in those moments, I want you to hear my voice saying, this is not the end. This is the beginning of your next breakthrough. So go out there and chase the dream that scares you. Start the project that might not work. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Step into the arena knowing that failure might meet you there, but so will growth, wisdom, and the kind of strength you cannot get any other way. Because in the end, it's not about how many times you avoid falling, it's about how many times you rise, how far you travel, and how much you grow because you dared to take the leap. Failure is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally in becoming who you were meant to be. Now go. Fail boldly. Rise fiercely. And live without regret.